Hello everybody, I'm back. Oh, okay. The answer to this is Viridian. Remember that we did find a little piece of envelope in there, so the only other thing we can think of right now is probably Viridian. The person responsible for seeing that the poison reached William Potenzi's mouth was Viridian Greenson. That's what I believe.
Viridian Green? I feel as though I've heard that name recently somewhere.
Viridian Green, you say? She's the victim. Everyone's a victim! In the stabbing incident that occurred 6 days ago on that walkway on Briar Road. Natsume Soseki, our current defendant, was arrested as a suspect.
Now I remember. Viridian Green. After the incident, she remained in a coma for 5 days. I heard she just regained consciousness 2 days ago.
It goes without saying, but Mr. Potenzi was poisoned late at night 3 days ago. It's completely impossible for a woman lying unconscious in a hospital bed to have committed this crime. That's true. On the night the crime occurred, she was still unconscious. At first glance, it seems impossible for her to have committed this, but yesterday, when we visited Viridian-san's room, she possessed a small bottle of deadly poison. Oh, whoops, he's not talking to his thoughts anymore. My bad.
What did you say? Deadly poison?
Additionally, a certain fact links Viridian-san to this case. The defense would like to have her testify about that.
Huh. By the way, William Potenzi. Oh. All right. What is it, Your Honor? Do you know Viridian Green? No, I've never heard of her.
Potenzi-sama looks puzzled, it would seem, but he really doesn't recognize Viridian-sama's name. As one entrusted with participation in the British administration of justice, I intend to keep my word. I shall see this farce of yours through to its conclusion, Japanese boy. Right. The prosecution would like to request a brief recess in order to summon the new witness. Oh no, there was a to be continue here?
You mean Viridian Green?
That's correct, Your Honor. I'd like to request an hour to subpoena her.
Very well. The court will grant the prosecution's request.
I did it.
The trial has arrived at this point due to an unexpected accusation by the defense. However, at this juncture, the prosecution's case continues to hold water as well. Therefore, the charges against the defendant still stands as before. Now then, court is now adjourned for a 1-hour recess.
I still have like another less than an hour to do more stuff, so I'll just keep going. Yeah, that's a to be continue. I guess I was really close to it. No, don't worry, we'll keep going. I'll go for like another... Go for another 40 minutes. Save. It's the same day, 11:32 a.m., the Old Bailey's defendants lobby.
Jumping for joy!
Oh, Soseki-sama. Well done in there.
Substitute exchange student Naruhodo and legal aid Mikatoba. Does this mean you'll finally be able to prove it? Prove my innocence and the innocence of my tea?
Hey, morning, folks!
Ah! The Sherlock Holmes! You cad! The world would be better off if you drank some of my tea and sank into eternal silence!
I thought you said there was nothing wrong with your tea. Oh, it's you, Holmes-sama. We're so glad you came. Yes, well, I know what you're thinking. Don't good morning us, you bloody late. Am I right? No, no, no. No one said anything like that. Well, see, even I was thinking to myself, today's the day I'll get it right. Today I'll finally wake up at a decent time and come to court to support my friends, I thought to myself. How do you like those warm and fuzzy feelings of mine? Lovely, aren't they?
Yes, very.
That's when I thought to myself, what is it that makes people repeatedly commit the foolish error of oversleeping in the first place? The answer is incredibly simple. Yes, it's because they sleep. How do you like my sharp insight? Pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes, very.
Thus, I decided to spend last night working on experiments and not getting a wink of sleep. Oh my god. And as a result, I ended up becoming hopelessly sleepy in spite of my efforts, and dozed off for a bit. I see. People are better off getting a good night's sleep. That was the conclusion I arrived at last night's experiment. Seems like a fairly predictable conclusion. Proving that you know via scientific means, that's the nature of experimentation. Alright, one more thing. Do you remember this?
Oh,
That's the poison Viridian-san tried to drink yesterday in her hospital room.
Wait, so then...
The fact that it was nearly empty made it difficult, but in the end it was no match for Mr. Holmes. I can say with certainty that this bottle contains strychnine.
So we were right.
Well, even so, it's not enough to prove that she was the one who committed the crime. I suppose I better give this to you. I don't recommend tasting what's inside. Please don't. Please no. Small bottle of poison. Viridian-san was carrying this bottle. It contains small amount of slow-acting poison called strychnine.
May I cut in?
These two are together! Well, if it isn't our friend the detective! Sorry to bother you. Oh, but did he just walk away?
Hey, wait, please.
He walked away! Well, it's just that I hate to interrupt. He's looking at the famous detective with a gaze that clearly says, you're the one who's really in the way here. Come now, little detective. Go ahead and say what you need to say. Pretend I'm not even here. My life would be a lot easier if I could do that.
Did your investigation of Potensi-sama's room turn up something?
I'm not sure yet. They should be finishing up soon, though. The reason I'm here is about that death row inmate. You mean the one mentioned in this article we found in Potensi-san's room yesterday?
I believe his name was Seldon.
I tried looking through his records in the Yaw's records room. And in the process, I managed to learn an interesting fact.
Interesting? That certainly sounds interesting to me.
This is what I copied down from the police documents. You can go ahead and have a look.
Thank you very much.
Death row inmate documents. An article about the death row inmate Seldon, who died of an illness in his cell, and a summary of the police investigation reports.
These documents. It looks as though the article we found in Potensi-sama's room is included among them. I'll tidy up the court record a little.
Did we just clear out stuff? But why are you giving us all these important documents? Well, you were the one who found that clue in the first place. It only makes sense to me, as a detective. Aww.
Oh my, that's Scotland Yard for you.
Feast your eyes, folks. This is what British-style suaveness looks like. Suaveness? I don't want to be in debt to any defense attorney, that's all. Thanks, Gregson! Defense, defendant. Court is about to reconvene. Head back into the courtroom. Now then, I believe that was my cue to get going as well. I'll be cheering you on from the gallery. Don't worry, I won't nod off. He's gonna nod off. Alright, thank you very much, Holmes-san. Tired of seeing Mr. Mustache cry. Do your best now.
Substitute exchange student Naruhodo!
Soseki-san.
This is finally it, isn't it?
Yes, at last. Meridian Green and William Potensi. Today's the day. We finally put an end to all of this. Soseki-san should be truly saved. When the whole truth comes out, I'm sure of it. We're about to enter the final showdown. Here goes nothing, Naruhodo Ryunosuke. I'm gonna get up and close the door. My bad. It's the same day, 12:30 p.m., the Old Bailey Supreme Court.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. Now then, I hereby declare court to be in session in the name of the Queen. Previously, we heard a surprising accusation from the defense that the victim in the incident 6 days ago is the culprit in our current case.
What a twist! Indeed. Quite an outrageous and unjust, reckless accusation it was. However, I've decided to accord this rank amateur who found his way to our shores from a suspicious little oriental nation every courtesy. That was an mouthful. Thank you very much. I can't help feeling like the way he worded that just now was anything but courteous.
A decision worthy of a proud British prosecutor indeed. Were you able to finish preparing the witness, Lord Von Zeeks?
The subpoena has already been delivered into her hands, and she's currently waiting in the witness lounge.
In that case, escort the witnesses to the stand.
Oh boy. Now then, witnesses, your names and occupations once more.
I'm William Potensi. My occupation, I suppose one could say, that for the time being, it's a victim.
So in other words, you're currently unemployed.
I'm Meridian Green. I'm a future painter. Or, no. I realize that I have no future as a painter, so I suppose I'm simply a coward who doesn't know when to quit.
By which you mean that you are also currently unemployed. Gods help us. Even though it says yada yada, there are so many translations for yada yada.
Mr. William Potensi.
Yes, Your Honor.
Potensi at your service. Your current position is no longer a mere victim, but as a possible attempter on the life of your fellow boarder, Natsume Soseki. The court will likely be pursuing that possibility going forward. I happily welcome it. And you, Miss Meridian Green.
I love how we're like have double victims here. Technically.
Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand the circumstances under which you've been summoned here today? Yes, I've heard.
What?
Apparently, I've been accused of poisoning this immature man.
Do you admit it, Miss Green?
Not only did I not poison him, but I don't even know the first thing about this incident. Come, lady, die to live. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with this plump green lady. Now then, let us commence with the trial and the investigation of Miss Green's involvement in this incident. This is all baffling to me. Why me of all people? I rarely even go to the East End. I just happened to be passing through that area 6 days ago. On the night of the incident, I was half dead in the hospital bed.
It it's incredibly unfortunate that you found yourself wrapped up in that incident that occurred on the walkway in front of that boarding house. You wound up stabbed in the back and unconscious in hospital for 5 days afterward.
To imagine that I could fall under suspicion simply because I happened to be stabbed while walking near the crime scene. Can't help worrying how many times I'll be suspected in the future. I should think that the fact that you were stabbed would be more of a concern.
In any case, as far as we know, the only time you had any point of contact with that lodging house was that time 6 days ago. Therefore, would you mind testifying one more time about what happened 6 days ago?
Oh? 6 days ago? You mean when I was stabbed?
Yes, I'd like to hear about the day you were stabbed. Naturally, I'd like to hear about it from you too, Potensi-san.
What? But I had nothing to do with what happened 6 days ago. Very well. In that case, the court requests to hear your testimony about the incident that occurred on Briar Road that evening 6 days ago.
That evening, 6 days ago.
6 days ago at around 5 p.m., I was suddenly stabbed in the back on that snowy walkway. Apparently, the location where it happened was right in front of the boarding house where this incident occurred.
I wasn't in my room at that time. I was enjoying dinner at a pub.
It was my first time being in that area. I was there because I had something to take care of there. I ended up being hospitalized that very night and didn't know anything about this incident.
Something to take care of? What?
Another crime occurred on the walkway in front of this building that's been referred to as the Cursed Boarding House. There's nothing to say, but that it's a very unlucky coincidence.
Meanwhile, you weren't at the boarding house at that time.
I didn't learn of the incident until I awoke the following morning to the commotion on the second floor, which was crawling with police officers.
That must have been when Soseki-san was being arrested as a suspect, huh? As I suspected, these two don't appear to have any points of contact. That's true. Those are the facts as far as one can see on the surface. But there must be some bigger truth lurking in the shadows, just out of sight here. Maybe one of her animations will show what she's painting. Maybe. This is my first and last chance. I'll just have to reveal whatever it is.
Now then, defense, you will begin your cross-examination of these two.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm wondering if she went... I'm wondering, because Viridian's, fiance used to live at that boarding house, and I'm wondering if she poisoned the person on the first floor. Okay, sorry. Being stabbed happened right in front of the boarding house where this incident occurred. So, what were you doing there that night?
Huh?
What was the name of the art school you're attending again?
Oh, it's Thorndike Art Academy. According to Homesama, it's in the Brixton Street neighborhood. We were told that it's about 10 subway stations away from the scene of the crime.
As I recall, you said you live in Brixton Street. So, what were you doing walking around the East End?
Well, the area is... let's see. Oh, right! I thought I might find a subject for a painting there.
The witness is a future painter. She can't be expected to find all the material for her work in the city alone.
That's right. I love that decaying look.
Perhaps you could avoid creating hard feelings by referring to it as... wait, what? Rustic? The point here is that she's trying to hide something. It seems that she's not willing to divulge it on her own. The fact that she's trying to hide her reason for being there must mean that there's a reason she has to hide it. That's the key thing here. By the way, Potensi-san, would you mind testifying about what you were doing at the time when the incident 6 days ago was happening? Certainly. I wasn't in my room, I was at a pub. Oh boy. So, about that pub. It's an East End paradise known as the Pepper Pavilion. Oh. Now that I think about it, it's a touch odd. What do you mean, Prosecutor Van Zeeks? Van Zeeks. The Pepper Pavilion is known for being a rather expensive eatery for that area. It's not the type of place that could be visited casually by a man who can't afford to have a single crust of bread in his room. That's true. Their menu includes items such as ultimate biscuit crumbs and the finest water. You'd be able to enjoy a better meal at the nearby restaurant, the Tumbledown. For example, watery soup and salad. Or was it soupy water and cabbage stems? They sound equally terrible to me. Sometimes I just feel like drinking my water at a different pub is all. Different water, huh? Or perhaps he actually had another reason. A special reason that he had to go to the Pepper Pavilion. Good point. The fact that he just happened to go to a different restaurant that night than usual is a little strange. So Potensi-san randomly switched things up 6 days ago. Do I have any evidence that might indicate a reason for that? Show evidence, nothing to show right now, apparently. But I think I know what we have to show at some point. Unfortunately, I don't see anything I can present right now to prove that. If we find any clues, let's be sure to shove it in his face. Yes, of course.
Now then, Miss Green, please continue your testimony.
First time in the area, she had something to do there. What were you up to? So what was this something you had to take care of?
Oh, it was something very trivial. I don't see we need to talk about it.
I believe you told us yesterday when we visited you at the hospital.
Huh?
About the card you had with you. Viridian-san! What was that about? It looked like she hid something behind her back. As I recall, the card had this written on it. I have something to tell you about Duncan Ross's death.
What about it? I don't see what Duncan has to do with this.
Is everything alright, Potensi-san?
To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pardon me. I quoted Shakespeare before I knew what I was doing.
Is that really something you could do without knowing what you're doing? You seem to be deep in thought about after hearing Miss Green's testimony. Apparently something came to you, didn't it?
What? No, nothing in particular.
Are you familiar with the name Duncan Ross? After all, he lived in the same boarding house as you.
Oh, well, even so. I hardly ever encountered him, you see. In spite of being lodgers at the same house, we weren't acquainted.
Even though he died in the room on the floor above you? Did he try to take... No way. No. Okay.
Miss Viridian.
Yes. Are you talking to me?
May I ask you about the card that was mentioned earlier?
Yes. I don't need it anymore. You can tear it up and throw it away.
In that case, before we dispose of it, let's keep it as evidence for a while.
Viridian's card. A card and envelope that were roughly torn open. Apparently she was called out by someone with information on Duncan Ross's death. Tensi-san and Viridia-san do have one point of contact with each other. Duncan Ross. He's the answer to this.
Now then, let's return to the testimony.
I was hospitalized that very night and didn't know anything about this incident. Oh, I don't have dialogue for this. Gonna let that play then. My bad. I thought there was another press, but then I looked again and I was like, oh wait, that's not a press, that's just we're done.
You did a wonderful job with that questioning.
Yeah, thanks to that, we were able to get our hands on a new clue. I thought we had that clue this whole time. Alright, where should I try questioning next?
Since you managed to get a new clue, perhaps it would be better to see what new paths you can open using it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess just shouting at people to hold on isn't enough to open any new possibilities, huh? So, about the pub.
It's an East End paradise, known as the Pepper Pavilion.
Now that I think about it, we're going to go through this dialogue again, so I'm going to skip through it. It's a very expensive eatery. We're getting to that point where we were asking if I had any evidence to indicate something, so... We have evidence! Let's show it! Show evidence! Potensi-san.
Yes?
Do you perhaps have a special reason for visiting the Pepper Pavilion that night, contrary to your usual behavior?
Why, I wouldn't know anything about that. In fact, I'm the one who'd like to know.
In that case, perhaps you could take a look at this piece of evidence for me. This is the reason you had to go to the Pepper Pavilion that day. We can't present it yet, we have to examine the card, so give me a second. This envelope was ripped open pretty roughly. Like, I get the feeling Viridian-san is the type who cut it open neatly. Are? Oya? Oya? Oh, it's Oya. Sorry. I thought it was Are. What's wrong? I can't help feeling like I've seen the shape of this rip somewhere before.
Oh, could it be? Perhaps it's this piece of evidence?
Oh, you're right. That's it. Let's try putting them together.
It's a perfect match. There's no mistaking it. This piece was ripped off of this envelope.
The rip matches perfectly with a torn shred of paper found at the crime scene. Envelope scrap. It's also a perfect match to the envelope Viridian-san was carrying. Oh my god, I got scared also, the music didn't stop. I can't help wondering about this card.
Isn't that Miss Viridian's card?
Did Viridian open this card now? That's right. Inside, the following is written. I have something to tell you about Duncan Ross's death. Come to the pub, Pepper Pavilion, on Briar Road on the 17th at 5 p.m. I have some very important information for you. Please be as discreet as possible about this. Tensi-san, your actions on the day of the crime are actually exactly as directed by this letter. I can't imagine that this is just a coincidence. Well, what do you have to say for yourself, Tensi-san?
Just a moment, please.
What is it, Viridian-san?
I was the one who received that card, remember? So I don't see how it could have anything to do with this oddball.
That's true, but it can't just be a coincidence.
Your Honor? Yes? There's something I'd like to clear up about that card. In that case, witness, you may add it to your testimony. Tell us about this curious card. This letter was addressed to me, so it has nothing to do with this oddball standing next to me.
Did you about that? The day before the incident. In other words, 7 days ago, this letter arrived at your residence. So you set out as directed by the letter and met with an accident.
Yes, I certainly did. It's terrible, isn't it?
I agree that it would be terrible, if it were true, that is.
What are you implying?
Miss Green, would you mind having a look at this for me? It's a shred of the exact same envelope in which you received your letter.
Huh?
And this scrap is a perfect match with the rip in the envelope your letter was sent in.
Where did you...
In Potensi-san's room.
What? In my room?
Potensi-san, could it be that you recognize this letter?
Oh, well,
Your actions on the day of the incident are just as directed by this letter. Please come to the Pepper Pavilion at 5 p.m. So off you went. Potensi-san, I'll ask you one more time. What do you know about this letter? And you, Viridian-san.
You're turning on me now?
As was proven by the shred of the envelope found on the floor in his room, this letter must have been in Potensi-san's room at one point. So then, why was this letter in your possession?
Who knows? I'm not really sure myself. I'm just a future painter.
With shifty eyes? The only answer I can think of. You got this by breaking into Mr. Potensi's room.
Oi, you little... young lady. Did you break into my room? Just who in the world are you? It would appear that we need to have you two testify once more.
I see that Potensi's Shakespearean accent tongue is starting to slip a little. Witness, Viridian Green.
Yes, sir.
As a victim who was only just released from the hospital, we all sympathize with you. However, anyone who provides false testimony to the Supreme Court will pay for their crime. I advise you to bear that in mind.
Yes, I know.
Now then, witnesses, your testimony, please.
Tell us about the contradiction with this letter.
Get a drink of water. Contradictory letter. Ooh! We're getting close to the end!
This letter was delivered to me about a week ago, as I recall. That day, I waited at the Pepper Pavilion for about an hour, but no one showed up, so I went home.
That's because Brittany got stabbed! She delivered that letter and then she got stabbed!
After that, when the Japanese man visited me later that night, it was indeed missing. I don't know anything about it. What are you accusing me of having done after breaking into his room? He's the villain here. I don't know anything about any envelope scrap. So then you were the one who received this letter? Yes, you're absolutely correct, Your Honor. As I recall, it should have been sitting on my table. But now that I think about it, I don't remember seeing it after I returned from the Pepper Pavilion that night. Which would have to mean, young lady, that your testimony was... I think it'd be rather harsh of you to decide just from that it was all a lie. Oh? I've been as truthful as a future painter can be. That letter was, without a doubt, delivered to me. Obviously, this villain here is lying.
But in that case, how do you explain this? This envelope scrap was definitely in Potensi-san's.
I don't think I need to explain that.
Huh?
I'm just a future painter. All I can testify is what I know. Explaining and proving things is a future defense attorney's job, if you ask me.
She's treating me like some sort of trainee. Well, you kinda are. It would seem that we have no choice but to reveal the truth via cross-examination. Bye.
Can you do that, defense?
I will, Your Honor.
In that case, your cross-examination, please.
There can be no doubt that Viridian-sama broke into Potensi-sama's room. And that's when she made off with the letter. Yes, those two facts reveal a certain possibility. And a pretty scary possibility at that. Okay, if we're almost done, I'm just gonna go over then, because, like, I want to get this case done. And not have to make you guys wait until I come back from a con. I waited at the Pepper Pavilion for 1 lonely hour before giving up and going home. Oh, poor Potensi. So in the end, you waited for an hour and no one showed up?
Yes. Well, yes, I suppose you could say that.
You seem a little hesitant to confirm it.
Ah, well, it's just that when you asked whether anyone came, I happened to remember it. Oh, so then someone did show up. Now that you mention it, while I was at the Pepper Pavilion that night, I was absorbed in the finest water and highest quality ultimate biscuit crumbs. And all around me was a flying swarm enjoying themselves.
Flying swarm?
Of flies. I see. But perhaps it was in fact a swarm of mischievous pixies in disguise, not unlike the ones who appear in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Potensi, go get help. It seems like an insult to the pixies if you ask me.
Can't help feeling that the fly samas could have picked something better to swarm around as well. Was it terrible of me to have unintentionally thought such a thing?
Sato!
I don't know anything about it.
What are you accusing me of having done after breaking into his room? Gee, I don't know. Let's try this poison bottle. You had this bottle in your hospital room yesterday, correct? There's a small amount of medicine remaining in the bottle. The defense carried out an independent investigation and found, well, it was Holmes-san's experiment that found it, actually, that the substance remaining in this bottle was strychnine. What? Strychnine? But that's the poison that was discovered in the victim's system. Huh? You had one very specific objective when you broke into Potensi-san's room. To paint poison on Potensi-san's lamp pipe.
Poison?
You were the one? Though it's hard for me to believe, Viridian-san. There's only one conclusion I can draw from the clues that were left behind. That the one who tried to take Potensi-san's life with poison was you!
Ah!
No! Oop, whoa, no. I guess we'll never know what the painting was.
Order! So in an attempt to murder the victim, she painted poison on the opening of his gas pipe.
Yes, that's the only thing that makes sense.
But if she set such a trap 6 days ago, then that would have to mean that this witness put his mouth on that pipe that very night. Which would in turn mean that the attempted murder should have taken place 6 days ago, would it not?
Well, he has a point. We can assume that that wasn't the case. Due to the investigation of the incident, there were a large number of police officers near the crime scene that night. They sought the cooperation of some residents in the area during the course of their investigation, questioning them repeatedly and collecting information. That too, Natsumi wasn't there. Anyone with the smallest amount of caution would have tried to commit a crime under Anyone with the smallest amount of caution wouldn't have tried to commit a crime under conditions like that. Prosecutor Van Zieks.
And then, the very next morning, a huge incident occurred at the boarding house.
A huge incident? Oh! So Seki-san, the second-floor boarder, was arrested as a murder suspect.
Yes, and as the defense has already proven, Potensi-sama's goal in blowing into the gas pipe was to fill Soseki-sama's room with gas fumes and cause him to suffocate.
Soseki-san was arrested, and his room was under constant surveillance by the yard. Under those circumstances, there would have been no point in blowing into the gas pipe. Because his target was locked up in the detention center. What a twist! Holy crap! Since this man didn't blow into the pipe at that time, the poison lie in wait. You know, this makes me think about the final case of Apollo Justice so much right now.
Now, skip ahead to 3 days ago. What happened then?
I see. Soseki-san's trial reached a conclusion in this very court.
He was declared not guilty of the assault of Viridian Green.
Soseki-san returned to his room at the boarding house for the first time in 2 days. That very night, the flame in his gas stove went out, and Potensi-san collapsed from the poisoning.
Ooh.
Oh boy. In other words, the poison on the pipe had already been placed there 4 days before the incident even occurred.
Woe is me!
When you consider that, it becomes clear that this letter was part of a plan.
A plan?
Come to the pub Pepper Pavilion on Briar Road on the 17th at 5 p.m. Please be as discreet as possible about this. The purpose behind this letter was to ensure that this man would be drawn out of his room that day at 5 p.m. To draw me out? That's also another... She also used that... Oh. The fact that Potensi actually responded to the letter about Duncan means that he probably also killed Duncan. And I think what she was trying to do is, oh man, this is deep revenge the case. This is revenge the case, that's what it is. Precisely. That would allow Viridian-san to sneak in safely during that time, because she knew you wouldn't be home. So then, this letter was written by Viridian-san, and in order to retrieve the evidence, she must have brought it back home with her. When she put the poison on the opening of your gas pipe. Her easel is empty. Order! 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 What do you have to say about this, witness? You cur! Who in the world are you? Why would you do such a thing to me? Miss Green's motive is clear. I feel so bad for Viridian right now. I believe you've all heard his name several times by now. So that's it.
In that case, defense, give us this person's name. The name of the person who motivated this young lady to attempt to murder the victim. Duncan Ross.
Before Natsume Soseki-san, the current defendant, came to live in that boarding house, his room was occupied by another young man. This man. I thought his name sounded familiar. It was the youth whose mysterious death in that cursed lodging house caused a stir throughout the city last month.
Ah, now I remember. That's right, if memory serves. There were rumors that he suffocated due to having been strangled to death. Strangled by the death row inmate's curse.
Hashtag blame Sherlock. That was neither the death row inmate's curse nor an accident. Tensi-san blew into the gas pipe and killed him. And that makes it a murder. Ah! Oh, Potensi. Man, I don't think anyone saw this coming with this Loof guy. And I'm sorry, there's background noises. I have to close the door again. Hold on. Viridian is laughing right here. You know, I might have to cast Viridian for someone who might find this fun, because,
This world is full of that sort of rubbish. Curses and mysterious deaths. People find out about a sensational, interesting sounding incident and they drag them into the public eye and make a big hullabaloo over it. And once they get tired of talking about it, they forget it ever happened. It's only been a month and yet no one remembers it. Duncan Ross? So then you're...
Miss Green was Mr. Duncan Ross's fiancé.
Fiancé?
Oh. Oh. You may not have known about her, Potensi-san. But she knew about you. As far as she was concerned, you are her most bitter enemy. The one who stole her fiancé from her. Whoa! Oh, man. Oh, what a good case. So then, Viridian-san, in order to get revenge on him, you painted poison onto his gas pipe, didn't you?
Good God Almighty! Does this mean you intend to accuse both of them then, Defense? or their respective murders. Double whammy, culprits!
I'm afraid so. It appears that the black-clad youth, taking his leisurely deep breaths over there, has mistakenly drawn a lung full of toxic gas fumes and gotten himself all confused. That's that AU? What? I'm sure there's a fanfic somewhere of that. For starters, what reason does this man have for murdering his fellow lodgers? The answer is that there is none. Oh, there so is an answer. That's right. You're quite right, Master Grim Reaper. Behold my I refute you to the depths of hell and back dance. That's a terrible dance.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Lawyer, but I have no intention of admitting to murder.
Well, technically she never did kill anybody.
Viridian-san. Forgive me if I'm being pretentious, but I refuse to be arrested because of a sorry excuse of a man like this one.
But you broke into Potensi-san's room. If it wasn't to paint the poison on his gas pipe, then why would you do it?
I just wanted to have a look around the scumbag's room.
Huh?
I admit that I suspected him, so I thought maybe I'd be able to find some evidence. Some evidence that he killed Duncan. The sheer cheek! The inhumanity! You're atrocious, you fat little trollop! Behold I always lock my door when I go out dance!
Please stop.
That boarding house is falling apart, so the locks are old. The locks are old too. Duncan showed me how to pick a lock using a wire and some turpentine.
Wow!
The lawlessness! The skill! You're inhumane, you violent trollop!
The breaking and entering can be addressed at a later date. Were you able to find the evidence you were looking for?
I found the letter I'd sent lying on the floor. Thinking I'd take it with me, I bent down to pick it up. That's when I noticed something. The floorboards were a little uneven, and underneath them was a little hiding place. Huh?
We found that hiding place too.
Inside was a newspaper clipping and a photo, as well as an empty box. Yeah, that. But when I looked in there, that box wasn't empty.
Huh? What was in it?
Well, this cute little key.
I love that. That animation for Viridian, she's so smug. That's fantastic.
Damn you! Damn you to hell! That's my...
What's going on here?
The Tensi-sama. He's white as a sheet. Give it here! Right this instant! That's mine! It was given to me!
What was that, witness? What did you just say? It was given to you.
Oh, no,
What does he mean? Given to him by whom?
The way it'd been hidden made it seem valuable, so I took it. I don't know what this key goes to, but he stole something important from me. Who cares if he can't open whatever this key goes to now?
Savage!
Give it back! That's mine!
Order! Witnesses! A witness! Potensi made an attempt on the lives of 2 of his fellow boarders and managed to kill one of them. His motive is the key to this whole case. William Potensi's motive isn't clear at first glance, but there's one goal he might have had in mind that makes sense. What did you say? think back on all the evidence and everything I've seen. I feel like I found the connection between these two cases just now.
In that case, the court requests that the defense present evidence. Evidence indicating the goal behind Mr. Potenzi's incomprehensible crimes.
We're looking at these documents first. Okay. Documents pertaining to the investigation on Selden. 18 counts of burglary, 6 suspected counts of murder. Died of an illness in prison. His cellmate looked after him in his final days. The stolen jewelry, valued at £1,000, has yet to be discovered. He had a cellmate. Death row inmate's death in his cell due to illness. The burglar and murderer Selden was found dead due to illness last night in the early hours of the morning in Manchester prison. According to authorities at the prison, Selden had been ill for less than 10 months. That's a long time to be sick! The jailer came running upon hearing Selden's cellmate scream, and he had passed before his sentence could be carried out. Take this! Take this from me!
Are these official police documents?
Documents pertaining to death row inmate Selden. Why do you have these?
Selden?
There's only one thing that links the deceased, Mr. Duncan Ross and Mr. Natsume Soseki. That's the fact that they lived in the same room of the same boarding house.
Well, yes, that's true.
Selden himself used to live in that very room. Right up until he was arrested by the Yard for his serial burglaries.
I see.
Incidentally, there's one major mystery still surrounding Selden. He had stolen a piece of jewelry valued at £1,000, but that jewelry was never recovered.
Now I remember. It's written here in this document too.
He took the £1,000 down to hell with him. The treasure vanished along with the prisoner. Apparently, Selden was cared for in his final days by a fellow prisoner. What if Selden, on the brink of death, passed it on to that other prisoner? The location of the stolen jewelry, and the key needed in order to open it, I mean. Oh my goodness, but what a twist!
So then, this key.
It was you, wasn't it, Potenzi-san? You were the prisoner who looked after Selden as he was dying.
What on earth are you talking about? These are all unfounded accusations.
The name of the prisoner who cared for Selden in his final days isn't recorded in these documents. However, a quick inquiry into the prison will reveal immediately whether these accusations are unfounded or not.
Gah!
Oh man.
But even if this is all true, what reason would he have had to need to kill the tenants who lived in the prisoner's room?
There's only one answer. Selden must have hidden that jewelry in his own room. So that's it. Yes, if we assume that. Potenzi-san motives for everything he's done since he was released from prison makes sense. After Selden's death, this man was eventually released from prison and immediately set out for Mr. Garrett's boarding house to rent a room. However, he was unable to rent the room he desired. That room already had an occupant, and that was Duncan Ross-san. And so, he murdered Mr. Duncan Ross using gas fumes. He was probably waiting for the right opportunity to tell the landlord he wanted to change rooms. However, another impatient man happened to show up to rent the room then, as if he'd been waiting for it to open up as well.
You mean the defendant, Natsume Soseki?
That's why he tried to fill Soseki-san's room with gas fumes again. That's right. It was all so that you could get your hands on the 1,000 pound that Selden had hidden in that room. Potency? Looks like I'm going to pop off before they can execute me. I'll give you that treasure. I just don't want the coppers to have it. I hid it in my room, so go have a look. This is the key. Make sure you live a good long time. Well, bye then, Potency. Did he just say something? It's mine. That treasure. It's mine. Whoa! Potency-san! I refuse to admit to any of it. Her word. After all, no one has any proof that I killed that boy at all. Look, I'm the victim here. Isn't that right, everyone? Oh. So long as I won't admit to it, there's nothing any of you can do. At the very least, you won't be able to arrest me right away. Because I'm nothing but a victim. Well, what do y'all think of that? Just a little longer. All I need is just a little more time. I've decided to get my hands on it no matter what I have to do. Like hell, I'd give up now. Oh my god. There's no mistaking it. This man is a murderer. However, given his extraordinary stubbornness, it's possible that even if you corner him further, he'll continue to refuse to admit his guilt. There's just one way. There's just one way that I could land the finishing blow on this guy. What? Look at all the crimes he's committed in order to get his hands on the inheritance that death row inmate left him. But what if we were to find that inheritance ourselves? However, that room was searched thoroughly after Duncan Ross passed away. We must consider the fact that it was obviously hidden very cleverly for it not to have been found then. The court cannot declare a verdict without a decisive clincher. If only there were a way we could find the inheritance the death row inmate left in that room immediately. This is it. This is the decisive moment. Might just be one way. A way to search for a hiding place. Your Honor.
What is it, defense?
The defense would like to propose a way of searching for the hidden jewelry. We believe we have a clue as to how to find it. This is our last hope. It would be worth betting on. After all, we already used it successfully once.
In that case, the court would like to hear the defense's proposal. What can we use to find where the death row inmate hid his inheritance? This appears to be the handprints the witness left at the scene of the crime, correct?
Yes, the defense discovered them while conducting its independent investigation. We used the scientific investigation method developed by the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. Famous detective? Don't make me laugh. You think that silly title is enough to scare me? I'm sure it's not, Mr. Harlequin. Obviously, I picked that title for myself as a joke. Oh, Sherlock Holmes! And what the devil are you doing here, famous detective? I believe your playground is limited to London's back alleys and rubbish heaps. Long time no see, Reapy. You got even paler since the last time I saw you. Home-san! Looks like he and the Grim Reaper know each other, after all.
Mr. Holmes, the general public may hail you as a famous detective, but you can't simply jump in on this garden of judgment known as the Supreme Court.
If I may, Your Honor. Home-sama has already used this technology to uncover a major clue.
A clue?
She means the finger marks, Your Honor. It's an incredible substance that reveals at a glance what a given person has touched. It was with that we managed to discover the suspicious connection between you and your gas pipe. Ugh. I'm able to make a testing fluid using something the person touched as a sample. By the way, I took your sample from your teacup. Now then, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. What shall I use as a sample to make my testing fluid? We appreciate your cooperation, Home-san. When Selden was arrested, he was living in Soseki-san's room. What we need in order to make a sample to search for the inheritance he left hidden in that room is... present evidence, present profile. I'm gonna finish the British administration of justice. I intend to keep my word. I shall see this farce of yours through to its conclusion, Japanese boy. Right. The prosecution would like to request a brief recess in order to summon the new witness. Oh no, there was a to be continue here?
You mean Viridian Green?
That's correct, Your Honor. I'd like to request an hour to subpoena her.
Very well, the court will grant the prosecution's request.
I did it.
The trial has arrived at this point due to an unexpected accusation by the defense. However, at this juncture, the prosecution's case continues to hold water as well. Therefore, the charges against the defendant still stands as before. Now then, court is now adjourned for a 1-hour recess.
I still have like another less than an hour to do more stuff, so I'll just keep going. Yeah, that's a to be continue. I guess I was really close to it. No, don't worry, we'll keep going. I'll go for like another... Go for another 40 minutes. Save-vous. It's the same day, 11:32 a.m., the Old Bailey's defendants lobby.
Jumping for joy!
Oh, Soseki-sama. Well done in there.
Substitute exchange student Naruhodo and legal aid Mikatoba! Does this mean you'll finally be able to prove it? Prove my innocence and the innocence of my tea?
Hey, morning, folks!
Ah! The Sherlock Holmes! You cad! The world would be better off if you drank some of my tea and sank into eternal silence!
I thought you said there was nothing wrong with your tea. Hello, everybody, I'm back. Oh, okay. The answer to this is Viridian. Remember that we did find a little piece of envelope in there, so the only other thing we can think of right now is probably Viridian. The person responsible for seeing that the poison reached William Potenzi's mouth was Viridian Green-san. That's what I believe.
Viridian Green? I feel as though I've heard that name recently somewhere.
Viridian Green, you say? She's the victim. Everyone's a victim! In the stabbing incident that occurred 6 days ago on that walkway on Briar Road. Natsume Soseki, our current defendant, was arrested as a suspect.
Now I remember. Viridian Green. After the incident, she remained in a coma for 5 days. I heard she just regained consciousness 2 days ago.
It goes without saying, but Mr. Potenzi was poisoned late at night 3 days ago. It's completely impossible for a woman lying unconscious in a hospital bed to have committed this crime. That's true. On the night the crime occurred, she was still unconscious. At first glance, it seems impossible for her to have committed this, but yesterday, when we visited Viridian-san's room, she possessed a small bottle of deadly poison. Oh, whoops, he's not talking to his thoughts anymore. My bad.
What did you say? Deadly poison?
Additionally, a certain fact links Viridian-san to this case. The defense would like to have her testify about that.
Huh. By the way, William Potensi. Oh, all right. What is it, Your Honor? Do you know Viridian Green? No, I've never heard of her.
Potensi-sama looks puzzled, it would seem, but he really doesn't recognize Viridian-sama's name. As one entrusted with participation in the... Oh, it's you, Home-sama! We're so glad you came! Yes, well, I know what you're thinking. Don't good morning us, you bloody late! Am I right? No, no one said anything like that. Well, see, even I was thinking to myself, today's the day I'll get it right. Today I'll finally wake up at a decent time and come to court to support my friends, I thought to myself. How do you like those warm and fuzzy feelings of mine? Lovely, aren't they? Yes, very. That's when I thought to myself, what is it that makes people repeatedly commit the foolish error of oversleeping in the first place? The answer is incredibly simple. Yes, it's because they sleep. How do you like my sharp insight? Pretty impressive, isn't it? Yes, very. Thus, I decided to spend last night working on experiments and not getting a wink of sleep. Oh my god. And as a result, I ended up becoming hopelessly sleepy in spite of my efforts, and dozed off for a bit. I see. People are better off getting a good night's sleep. That was the conclusion I arrived at last night's experiment. Seems like a fairly predictable conclusion. Proving that you know via scientific means, that's the nature of experimentation. Alright, one more thing. Do you remember this? Oh, that's the poison Viridian-san tried to drink yesterday in her hospital room. Wait, so then... The fact that it was nearly empty made it difficult, but in the end it was no match for Mr. Holmes. I can say with certainty that this bottle contains strychnine. So we were right. Well, even so, it's not enough to prove that she was the one who committed the crime. I suppose I better give this to you. I don't recommend tasting what's inside. Please don't. Please no. Small bottle of poison. Viridian-san was carrying this bottle. It contains small amount of slow-acting poison called strychnine. May I cut in? Defense! Defendant! Court is about to reconvene. Head back into the courtroom. Now then, I believe that was my cue to get going as well. I'll be cheering you on from the gallery. Don't worry, I won't nod off. He's gonna nod off. Alright, thank you very much, Holmes-san. Tired of seeing Mr. Mustache cry. Do your best now.
Substitute exchange student Naruhodo!
Soseki-san.
This is finally it, isn't it?
Yes, at last. Viridian Green and William Potensi. Today's the day. We finally put an end to all of this. Soseki-san should be truly saved. When the whole truth comes out, I'm sure of it. We're about to enter the final showdown. Here goes nothing, Naruhodo Ryunosuke. I'm gonna get up and close the door. My bad. It's the same day, 12:30 p.m., the Old Bailey Supreme Court.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. Now then, I hereby declare court to be in session in the name of the Queen. Previously, we heard a surprising accusation from the defense that the victim in the incident 6 days ago is the culprit in our current case.
What a twist! Indeed, quite an outrageous and unjust, reckless accusation it was. However, I've decided to accord this rank amateur who found his way to our shores from a suspicious little oriental nation every courtesy. These two are together! Well, if it isn't our friend the detective! Sorry to bother you. Oh, but did he just walk away? Hey, wait, please. He walked away! Well, it's just that I hate to interrupt. He's looking at the famous detective with a gaze that clearly says, "You're the one who's really in the way here." Come now, little detective. Go ahead and say what you need to say. Pretend I'm not even here. My life would be a lot easier if I could do that. Did your investigation of Potensi Sama's room turn up something? I'm not sure yet. They should be finishing up soon, though. The reason I'm here is about that death row inmate. You mean the one mentioned in this article we found in Potensi-san's room yesterday? I believe his name was Seldon. I tried looking through his records in the Yaw's records room. And in the process, I managed to learn an interesting fact. Interesting? That certainly sounds interesting to me. This is what I copied down from the police documents. You can go ahead and have a look. Thank you very much. Death row inmate documents. An article about the death row inmate Seldon, who died of an illness in his cell, and a summary of the police investigation reports. These documents. It looks as though the article we found in Potensi-sama's room is included among them. I'll tidy up the court record a little. Did we just clear out stuff? But why are you giving us all these important documents? Well, you were the one who found that clue in the first place. It only makes sense to me, as a detective. Aww. Oh my, that's Scotland Yard for you. Feast your eyes, folks. This is what British-style suaveness looks like. Suaveness? I don't want to be in debt to any defense attorney, that's all. Thanks, Gregson!